Can't hear you. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. That's better.
So sorry about that. um,
Good.
Welcome everybody. If there's any problems with the sound or with the video, as Dave just did, please don't be afraid to grab my attention and we will get it sorted out. And also during the session, feel free to keep yourself muted to help preserve the sound quality. But at the end, we do have question and answer, and you are most welcome to unmute yourself and ask any questions. So great to see everybody. We'll do a sound check with Geshe. Can everyone hear Geshe all right? Okay, great. So let us get started then. So first of all, Tashi Dele, greetings to all. Geshe hopes that everything is going well and that you are all happy. And he hopes that your study and practice of the teaching is getting better and better all the time. And so then, as a frame, of course, we are gathered together as we always are for the reason of cultivating cultivating happiness. We understand that happiness arises principally from the inner causes that we cultivate. And so to achieve that happiness, it's very important to be able to distinguish positive or wholesome minds from those that are unwholesome.
And
in the Pramanavataka treatise on logic, it says that when we distinguish positive and negative minds, we refer to those positive things like patience, love, compassion, and so forth as positive mental qualities.
So
sorry, I'm going to retranslate. Qualities depending on mind. And these positive qualities depending on mind, if we build upon them, if we cultivate them, we can bring them to a point of perfection. So then when we speak about love, compassion, and so forth, we speak about the mind as the basis, and then we say that these qualities are depending upon the basis. Simla teni gogitus konda. Yeah. And so they must be established on the basis of a stable mind. And it is said that attachment, anger, and these afflicted minds, they arise from a basis which is by its nature unsteady, because they are rooted in the ignorance grasping at the self. Why is the basis upon which the afflicted minds come forth considered to be unsteady? Because the hopes and aspirations related to the afflictions are unreliable, unworthy. Rewa dangden so kandes? Rewa chesa sena konso yong sadi. Rewa chesa sena nga rewa di ye stapo chiklab na di drog yo marete.
lembo ji japol te de yarawa
Yeah.
o te no ji
Rewache is also pombo dapo chi.
Okay, pombo dapo chi.
Rewache is a okay. So then, they can be considered to be the servants. These attachment, anger, and so forth can be considered to be the servants of this ignorance, grasping at the self.
오다 던지지 이자 된다 걸어서 떼사 대라 자대 체마매 이제 땜보 말해 아니 로보 말해.
And because the afflictions that the basis upon which they arise is something that is unsteady, is something that is not grounded in truth, then the afflictions themselves are considered adventitious. Adventitious means things that can be removed.
다 던지지 이자 가디나 강에 때는 가로서 걸어 땜보 대 토기데 말해. 된다 대세기 말해.
So the meaning of this teaching here is these minds which cause us problems, they do not have a steady basis for arising, therefore they can be diminished.
다 쇼바도 니지르지 걸어서 떼사대 자본다고 때 땜보지래. 센저로지 개사 말해. 대이자 땜보지 야 이자 가디나 대시 코치 초알지 레소나 대시 때는 땜본도 토게 되래.
Love and compassion, on the other hand, their basis within the mind is the mind's aspect of pure luminosity. Because this is something powerful and unmistaken, then these minds are grounded in truth and can be improved and improved.
오다 대지 강가 체만 논제 가리는 지체가 돌로 지체가 돌로 지체 주주시는 거야. 당한도까지 터대 대대신도 가레스.
So these examples are taken from Pramanavartika, which is the treatise on valid cognition, and this treatise proposes and explains these minds on the basis of reasoning. So we want to try to understand those reasonings more and more.
다 쿤다고 대샤신주 전부는 거나 라와만지 니데 권유에 많이 생지에 되르지 다 쇼바도 니지 쇼주세 더 깔래 가본다고 요하르더니 가제 터더 컴바이나 소식 아니 릴라고 차야메 그지 좀
So we understand also from the source of Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara that there is nothing that does not become easier with familiarity, that there is nothing that does not become easier with habituation. So as we cultivate more and more the minds of love, compassion, and so forth, and they become rooted in habituation, they will more easily arise.
어다 던지게 노게 또바 대지 셔라 초사바 저바주야 대지 같이 뭐 이상 안졸레까 강가 다 던지게 쳇 반로하시 소이.
And also, in order to create the foundation for these qualities to arise, then the accumulation of the collections of merit and wisdom, and as well as the purification of obscurations, is something that is extremely important, so we must engage in that.
다른 알레트 버튼이지 다 레레 지나 세코로가 다 로진 걸 봐. 레레 지나 다 연인 저기.
So we are going to proceed and we are going to begin by just relaxing into this fundamental nature of the mind.
세롱지 코롤 마테게 세이자 가제 더더 다 봐. 좀메베 초와 노도리 파전에 레레데야.
So then just relax into this fundamental nature of the mind, which is fundamentally a neutral, a state of equanimity.
디비게다 내선 담마데 파야기 마고비레와도 도바르지 파야네 센지 그조고데 방니스마소이 somebody.
So then set aside any regrets or bad feelings about the past. Set aside any anxieties, hopes, and fears about the future, and just rest in this present moment on the relative nature of the mind.
Nikana se sashi tonwa. Melo noji. Kanga pa toya. Oda trigo ya pochio sobachi.
The fundamental aspect of the mind, when we tap into it, it is clear and knowing. It is something that can reflect perfectly all objects of knowledge.
Kanga ri toba, tu toba yina yo korola. Ane zyuge rungje idu kadola sobaga ta. Tendi tene meba no kanoji.
Although it can cognize, reflect any object or phenomena, the mind itself does not have any discernible form. It has no particular color or shape. It is vast and empty, like space or the sky.
Tendi sashi riba deyo. Hoda katawa yina. Zega tsusa yaba rawaji yara tene. Ta pa tsawa yina ta tenyo tene. Zane raya meba. Rungji meba jire du somata.
Even when we tap into the mind's nature of pure luminosity, it can seem like there is some sort of findable, pinpointable mind that's really existing. But if we examine and try to really search and locate that mind, we'll see that we are not able to find it.
Rungji ndana senji yuzu. Sanamde ta kawa ba yuzu. Nyatse temashibi ungi kawa la kawa tendu. Deriba shine yuzu kawa la toyi shola ta. Chui sombachi.
So myself, others, all sentient beings, it is a due to lack of knowledge about things not existing from their own side that keeps us circling, that keeps us cycling within samsara. I myself will bring forth the knowledge to be free from this cycle and also to lead all sentient beings towards liberation.
Seya bote di shul patembo chine ta. Kaze tutan chogi teta yungwaji. Neso hatse chita tagyo somata.
And from the bottom of my heart, with a mind of confidence, I will request the blessings of the holy beings in order that I may actualize this. Sorry, a bit of a loud gong. And as we go through the prayers, I think, Dave, I told you we'll do the prayers to Guru Rinpoche. And I apologize if my voice is a little bit scratchy. It's a bit scratchy this morning. But we'll begin as usual, yes, with the praise to the Buddha. Tembai chom den de de jin je ba dra chom ba yan da ba zo be sang ge je ba dang shab su dem ba de war she Jikten Gemba Kibuduwe Kalo Gyurwa Lana Meba Ladamin Amgi Temba Sangye Chom Dende Be shakya tubala chazelo chede kyabsu chi Tenpa chonden de deshin sheba drachon pa yang daba zobe sangye sheba dang shasu tenpa dewa sheba shiden chenpa chebu dewe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chonden de pejawa shakya tuba la chazelo chede kyabzu chi ho Tenpa chomden de deshin sheba drachon pa yang daba zobe sangye sheba dang shapsu tenpa dewa sheba shiden kempa chebu dewe kalo jorwa lana meba ladang mi namgi tenpa sangye chomden de pejawa shakya tuba la chaselo chede kyabsu So we'll do the 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche and then the prayer to clear away all obstacles. Ung Hogen Yogin Ujang Sam Pema Geza Dombola Yatsen Chegin Adrenye Pema June Jesuja Kodu Kanjo Mambe Go Gegi Jesu Dajugi Jinji Lob Shir Jesus Guru Pema Siddhi Dusum Sangye Guru Rinpo Ngodrup Dewa Chembe Sham Bache Gunze Dudu Jabo Ze Solwa Deso Jinji Labdu Jinang Sangwe Bache Shiva Dan Samba Lungi Drupa Jinjilo Oma Hum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum Oma Hum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum Om Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum Oma Hum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum Oma Hum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Hum. And we'll do the short mandala. Saji Begi Juji Medo Chang Rira Linji Nide Gyamba Di Sangye Shindu Mide Buvagi Drogu Nanda Shinla Jeba Jo Idam Guru Ratnam Hendala Kam Niryatayami. Refuge and bodhicitta.
Sonje
Chedong Tsogi Chenam La Jiangchu Bardu Dani Gyabzu Chi Dagi Chenyen Gipe Sunam Gi Drola Penjir Sangye Drobar Sho Chedon sogi chenam rai Jangcho bardu dani gyabsu chi Dagi chinyin gibe sunam gi Drola penjir sanje drobar sho Chedon sogi chenam rai Jangcho bardu dani gyabsu chi Dagi chinyin gibe sunam gi Drola penjir sanje drobar sho
오야 다 대요더네 다 도미샤와 그노까지 자체가 있는다 아니 가르세가와 다 아니 개와 자체와 내가 니바 자체가 다 도체와 지금 요레스
So if right at the beginning we establish a motivation that is as vast, as powerful as possible, then the virtue that we accumulate will be so much more powerful and vast.
다 던지시오는 던지게 다 니바 첨부 쳐봐야네 니가 이는 세노데메 메이 소마노 정도 소소가 다 소마노지 다 로조도 뇨레칸가 다 여본도야지.
So keep in mind also the importance of this. It is said that one who is endowed with great merit is able to accomplish all their aims exactly as they wish, right? So this is something important to recollect at the beginning.
그런 자체가 있는 다 손바 자체가 있다니 야네 손을 떠야 돼. 저 예손을 떠야 돼. 계속 돈에서 소리 못해요.
So actually when we establish the motivation and we make it as vast as possible, this is in reference to thinking about others. And the paradox here is that actually through thinking about others, we ourselves come to a greater profit or advantage actually.
다 메시리나 했더니 그 레바 자체가 아니 다세 고 강가시네다 시와지도 렐레지 된대요 아레스.
So what we'll also find is that we are then, when we think in this way, the mind is sort of broader, more open, and also that we are more able to activate our intelligence, and also that we are able to abide more peacefully. So there'll be all these advantages.
다 텔라테네 다 루도 세도 강가 좀마치 다뭐
And because the mind is vast, right, then this means that the mind and the wind are sort of well regulated and vast. And actually this also has a physiological impact. And so it is said that through this also one can experience less physical illnesses, for example. So recognizing all of those benefits, let us really focus on trying to bring forth that positive motivation. So by placing the body and mind in this state of peace, let us bring those four elements into balance. From these four elements coming into balance, then all of the discursive thoughts, unpleasant feelings, and so forth, these slowly subside like a great wave crests and then merges back into the surface of the ocean. The body feels well, and the mind is also very open and very peaceful. So then to kind of build and establish this peaceful mind in a stable way, direct your attention, direct your mindfulness to the rising and falling of the breath.
chomebi tsowa no toroji jachigu nyachu bazi juba noji ser ko neba no yosheto mare sopato.
When we tap into this state of peace, even if there are discursive thoughts and so forth, they are just like minnows flitting about beneath the surface of the water. They're present, but they don't cause any disturbance.
Teyo se ya bote ta pa goshchenila jachembo tawa ina sunji ge sumba noji ron je ndona ro ri tu kangal sunji ge ri chonji semeri taveri za chembo te cha de yo se yo me ba.
And then building upon this mind, then direct your attention to all 6 types of sentient beings. And recollect that the Buddha has taught that yourself, others, indeed all of these beings have the potential for liberation, moksha, have the potential to arise bodhicitta, have the potential to realize complete and perfect enlightenment, the Buddha nature. And in this way they are all close to us.
소소 첸디 다 니에 자 치슈 쓰기나 다 대도 아니 니에 자 치슈 찌바이 소마나.
Have this feeling of them all being worthy and attractive. Have the same sort of feeling of connection that you have with the person who has been the very kindest to you in this life. And on that basis, develop the wish to bring them to freedom.
주요 그 강에 세야 아니 다두기 되시 돼야 다 가로 롤게요 디체도 다 손지치 공부 여기 손바지 손주세요.
In terms of liberating all these beings from suffering and bringing them to the bliss of a freedom, this is my own personal responsibility. I myself alone must do this. In order to be able to accomplish this, may I achieve Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. So, we shall pause it there. Sorry about that. Yes, so Geshe said on the basis of my coughing, now he's going to cough. I'm hoping it doesn't mean that we caught a cold in the plane. I don't think so.
오야 다 대요더니 다 나나세 다 순지 잡아라 다 디나즈라 바제 다 순지 쳐도 여러 전지 semba 쳐도 그래. 다 전지 semba 쳐봐라 다 도시라. 다 템보지 그거지 다 디체도 다 버게 여러 몸보지 요아레.
So of course we have the goal firmly established now that we call the self or the I is going to reach the state of Buddhahood or complete enlightenment. We understand that in order to reach that state of Buddhahood or complete enlightenment, we must achieve bodhicitta and engage in the conduct of a bodhisattva. And in order for this to be in place, we need to train in both method and wisdom. And actually we need to understand how to do that, which is what today's topic is about.
So
then in this book Kunzang Lame Zherung, or words of my perfect teacher, there is a lot of mention of the word Ngodrup, or preliminaries, and it talks about the outer preliminaries, and it also speaks about the inner preliminaries. So as much as possible then, we are going to continue with our exploration of this text. So if you turn to, so there's a lot of different editions. I have the Padmakara edition, and I'm going to tell you the year too, because I think there's actually many different editions. The Padmakara edition from 2011. And so in my edition of the text, we are on page 19. On page 19. Okay, Nipa? Okay. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay, so there are 6 preliminaries in this first sort of cycle of the outer preliminaries according to the text. So Geshe is just reviewing these. The first is recognizing a precious human rebirth with the freedoms and advantages. So freedoms and advantages. The second one is the impermanence of human life. Impermanence of human life. And then the faults of samsara, then cause and effect, the benefits of liberation, and finally the way to rely upon the spiritual teacher. So, freedoms and endowments of human rebirth, impermanence, the benefits of liberation, the faults of samsara, cause and effect, and how to rely on a teacher. So actually, as we approach the text, it's going to be hard to hold all the information in your mind, right? But a starting point could be to remember these 6. So then we spent a lot of time in the beginning of the text speaking about the motivation and so forth. And so in terms of these 6 points, we're still in the discussion about the human rebirth with the freedoms and advantages. So then the main subject of the chapter is Nipa sheje chugi rinpa dejo rwa. Then they tambo. Right. Right. Look. Yes. Okay. The main subject of the chapter is explained in 4 sections: reflecting on the nature of freedom, reflecting on the particular advantages related to dharma, reflecting on images that show how difficult it is to find the freedoms and advantages, and reflecting on numerical comparisons. And so the first of those is reflecting on the nature of freedom, and this is where we will begin our discussion today. So here when we speak about freedom, it is freedom in the sense of leisure. Leisure to do what? Leisure to practice the dharma. So Geshe said, in a way, freedom means an opportunity to engage with the teachings. And if we do that well, we can come to a good result. So it continues. In general, freedom means having the opportunity to practice dharma and not be born in one of the 8 states without that opportunity. Lack of freedom refers to those 8 states where there is no such opportunity. And so now it lists these 8 states without freedom. Being born in the hells in the Preta realm, as an animal, a long-lived god, or a barbarian. Having wrong views, being born where there is no Buddha, or being born deaf and mute, these are the 8 states without freedom. So Geshe said that an easy way to conceptualize this is to divide these 8 states lacking freedom into 2 sets of 4. So the first would be the non-human states lacking freedom, and the second would be the human states lacking freedom. And the 4 non-human states lacking freedom, so this is rebirth in the 3 lower realms of hells, pretas, animals, as well as rebirth as a particular kind of deva, known as a long-lived deva or god.
Listen.
Oh. So we are continuing on page 20. Beings reborn in hell have no opportunity to practice the dharma because they are constantly tormented by intense heat or cold. So, So the sufferings of heat and cold in these hell realms are said to be so intense that beings cannot even think of the dharma. So just because they are experiencing such intense suffering, this means that there is no opportunity to listen to or to practice the teachings. But Geshe said that there is an exception that we have to mention here. Even within these hell realms, remember the story of Buddha Shakyamuni, that actually the hell realms was the first place where he was able to bring forth bodhicitta. But this is a very rare exception rather than the rule. And so there is a source for this in the sutras. It states very clearly that when one of the disciples asked the Buddha, in which realms of existence can bodhicitta be brought forth, the Buddha answered very clearly, within any of the 6 realms of sentient beings. However, right, sometimes it's difficult. So, and Jangchugi sen lagide sin ngune ningje chembo gi donda yore. So Geshe said that if you look at some commentarial understandings of this, it also kind of fleshes this out more, that in fact within these hell realms it was not actually bodhicitta that was brought forth, but it was great compassion. Because great compassion is the nyerlengigyu, or the substantial cause of bodhicitta. It is sometimes referred to as bodhicitta scripturally, although what we're actually speaking about is great compassion. So, of course, whether it was great compassion or bodhicitta, the principle here is that if one, throughout one's lifetimes, places many positive imprints within the mind, then even in seemingly very difficult circumstances, such as the hell realm, that can actually be a catalyst to ripen the imprint and develop some sort of positive realization. So this should be encouraging, right? That all of the effort that we put in every day, from day to day, the struggle, that we have to maintain our practice, that none of this is wasted. All of these positive things exist as potentials within the mind that really could ripen into realization in any different manner of conditions.
re ma to tane o mombo chi ta phoge tu pa shiru ma che tane o ta khoro phoge se shu chane la o ta tane o mombo do ya res.
If we don't keep that in mind, it's really kind of easy to lose our perspective and think that I'm not coming to any realizations. Why am I even bothering with this? I'm not even getting anything out of it, right? So it's very important to understand those imprints are not wasted.
shi wo tomba so pe ya bo chi sung ya res. Dan dan kanzo te. Ano shi ama pe kanzo chamotne lagu di was.
Oh, yeah.
Dudu chi wa was.
Yeah. Hakusan.
Dudu.
Yeah. Bedi do.
Dudu te.
Yeah.
Koro kale santo za chinjen ko mama rine kanga kale kanga be ro was.
So Geshe said it reminds him of a hat that Manoshi's mother kindly gifted us. So she knit this hat made out of wool. So if you think of that woolen hat, the example here is that you have this seemingly kind of, I guess, round-shaped woolen hat, but it is possible through just pulling out one string very, very, very gently that the whole hat begins to unravel.
Because was o ta lende la ichi tembo mandune te no ji chan ro res nganzo lo ju tun la cheke.
Ale yeah. Nganzo kind of be nangshin.
O bi du te no ji ko du za che je shu ko kale mama mando ne du shur me ro.
Yeah. So if we don't have faith in cause and effect, and if we don't understand how imprints work, that can actually be what happens when we get discouraged in our practice, that this thing that we have constructed, this beautiful thing with our effort, it becomes just like that piece of string.
O ta tandi chi ta jane o ta ji la me yo ane la ma chong ka pi mo ta lo ka wa yin na de le tho che ga cha wa lende la ichi ge te ba.
So that is why actually in the Uttara Tantra Shastra, as well as in Lama Tsongkhapa's Lam Rim text, it talks about faith in cause and effect, the root of all happiness. It refers to it as the root of all happiness.
Tsawa se ya sa de mombo yo ma res. So chol kha la ka chembo no ne chembo tandi la tsawa se ya de yo res.
Tsawa kind of leje deki gi tsawa di.
Tsawa se ya was chi de.
Ale shela peju tong yo ma re.
Ka sa kalam du was.
So we'll see that this word root is something that is used sparingly in the scriptures. We only see root of all something in very, very kind of important points. So this has some gravity to it, right? That belief in cause and effect is the root of all happiness.
Ta tu no ne tan lende ge ne se te la tsawa ja ma je de le tho je ge tsawa lende la ichi te ba.
And not only is a belief in cause and effect the root of practice, it is actually said to be the root of all happiness and goodness, the root of all happiness and goodness. So this carries some weight.
Ta tandi le de le tho lende la ichi ge te ba tembo chi ta pa manji te ba tembo chi yo na. Tane ta kange kandi si tar yo kar shi na pa che kar shi na kon jo wa me ba.
So then also, if we have this stable faith in karma, the other benefit here is whatever problems we face, whatever obstacles we experience in our practice, right? We are not going to give up. We will be able to maintain our determination and momentum.
Ta lende ge tane lende ge ta phoge ne se te shi wu chung la yo ma nyole che ke ya shi wu ndi la yo ka chi mo cha ti res.
So an interesting point too is that cause and effect is said to be a very important point in the stages of the path common to beings of a small capacity, but also it carries over into the stages of the path common to beings of a middling capacity. So both in the small and middle scopes.
O ta tere du so ta tandi ji ta tel ngi tang ge la ya tere nganzo so ta tu ba ma she ba yin yo so si ka ze she to na ta keso chi ma to ta ta chung yo ma res.
So it's really important to remember that even if we're not maybe bringing forth the realizations that perhaps we are hoping for, that there are so many kind of benefits and positive seeds that we are planting. So it's really important not to lose sight of that.
Ngaro so tembi da po temba sha da ja ge temba yin na yo nge solo ni ji chenpo she ne la de shi go chu songas de shi tembo.
So our teacher, Lord Shakyamuni Buddha, it was within the hell realms that he was able to bring forth great compassion and then to embark on the path towards happiness.
papa tume ina yo tani cho ta cheng ine do mare tene cho poge sunji ge chwa cho ta kange yo ke chila tene ni ji te la tene ni ji shu ta bo she ne ane jama shomba tu songas.
And remember also the story of a sangha seeing that emaciated dog with the terrible wounds. Just from sort of seeing that and developing a very strong feeling of great compassion, he was finally able to have that vision and interaction with Maitreya.
ta tende ji ta ta ni ji chenpo te chonju ji se yo do ma yo sa te zo ta khol tu do as ni ji chenpo tu de ya res.
And so whether bodhicitta is actually able to come about or not, it very much depends upon bringing forth this great compassion.
ta ni ni me la kale khawo ya isa nga zo ki wo shi gi shi gi.
So Geshe said that we are at a part of the text that is discussing some difficult things. So he feels the need to veer off a little bit and remind you of all the reasons to be happy, of all of the good stuff as well. That's his way of going.
ta ni so ma.
Listen.
ta mi nyawa do yo ta to ser ha le bi to be kange chu chu ke chare ma do so so lo phoge pa cha tembo ji yo ane ne pa chemo sa yo ke ji ne je chun ji la tene pa cha de se an di was.
So even within the animal and the hell realms, and this is really important to remember, especially in the context of this discussion, even within the animal and the hell realms, beings who possess positive imprints, if they meet with the condition, those imprints can blossom into realization, even in those circumstances.
tin ba ji ta ni pa ye do na ti ko jo de nga la shi bi chi she de ma ko.
The pretas have no opportunity to practice the dharma because of the suffering they experience from hunger and thirst.
so ji cho den de tane ja ga do ji di shu la. Ye ina ta ba chi le ju de be ka la. Ya ne chi no la.
Oh, yarne, loso.
O ju be ka chi la ta me mo bo chi ni wa chi le so as.
So then this is a story that relates to when the Buddha was dwelling in Bodh Gaya during the period of Yarne or Vasa, the rains retreat. And a bunch of people who were very disturbed, they approached the Buddha.
ta me mo bo do ta sun ji ke je she ta ko chi su yo na ka la no yo na chi she ba. Tan za de yo be ka ta ne yo do mo bo chi ta chi chen sun ji ke shala yi je re.
And so as the Buddha was preaching the dharma to them, and they were listening to the dharma, then Geshe is not sure if it was through the blessing of the Buddha or through some type of karmic circumstance, a bunch of pretas, a bunch of hungry ghosts, approached the assembly.
ta tin do be ka sun ji choro se ti man do ti ge yo man de ji ka choro su ga ta no nye ju ju re de res.
So of course the audience became very fearful and they all started to get up, getting ready to run away. And the Buddha said, there is no reason to run away. These hungry ghost beings are actually all beings with whom you have a very close connection. And when I say they are close to you, I don't even mean close to you from the perspective of previous lifetimes. These are beings with whom you have a strong karmic connection in this lifetime.
So the
Buddha said that actually the task here is for you not to be afraid, but to stay here and listen to the Dharma. And then, through the virtuous karma that we accumulate together in that, to dedicate it to their benefit, because those beings really need some help right now. And so this is a kind of an example from the scriptures of something that happened in the Buddha's time, but Geshe said that also in Tibet, many similar stories of encounters with beings like this. So one of the characteristics of many pretas is it is said that they are not able to take solid food or drink, that whatever little energy they can get, this only comes from smells. So they're called smell eaters sometimes.
예도는 찍고죠. 능가라시 비치시는 조선서.
지도서.
선바던도는 고시에도 폐즈 체위 능가라시 비치시에도 뭐고.
Animals have no opportunity to practice the dharma because they undergo slavery and suffer from the attacks of other animals.
다 던도 리치네 다 뭐기 오포주주 전에 다 레카시네 니제 다 강에 가서 등가 좀 이렇게 두고 왔어.
So this is a suffering that we can see with our eyes very clearly. If you think of all of those animals that are forced into service to human beings and all the sorts of burdens they carry and difficulties that they face.
다 던도 리치라는 다 코로스 놀로 파제 산일라 던도라 찌라 사이 등와서네 다 강에 제조돼 되지래.
And even those who are not in service to sentient beings, many animals are in a constant state of fear of being eaten. They're always seeking food to eat and always in a fear of being eaten. So also terrible suffering there.
어떤 디님에서 간주 어주자는 레세자 대한테 다 집에 놓진 가서 다 대야 말다. 내 지금 가서 간가 다 아니고 다 리버스케 말했어.
So when we contemplate these sufferings, it's not supposed to be like something far off, like we're watching it on TV or something. We're supposed to think that this is something really close to us that we are observing and thinking, what if that happened to me?
어떤 내질렀다네 다 단다도 얘네 돈에 다 여보 로조이네 녀래이네 다 비도 뭐 땡버서 이티세 얘네 지래 송바진 간조 소화지자 제지도 그 아래스.
And so what we want to do is bring forth a feeling that now is the time. Now when I have all of these great conditions is the time to bring forth stable effort in my study and practice. That is the end point of this reflection.
어떤 딘드리잔 데시 자대야 등아로서 덴롤런조도 되는 냔롤런조 어느 산촌라고 질단다 요 아래스.
And when we think about these explanations, we can think that we are sort of in a borderland, and we could go in one of two directions, either to the pleasant realms or to the lower realms.
어다 코알 못하네 되기도 탑이 되시는 로기 디산솔라 요 아래스.
And also, even beyond that, there is the crossroads of thinking whether we will continue to circle in samsara or cyclic existence, or whether we will be able to go towards the bliss of liberation.
어다 드리자 가왔다 와이네 쇼주 셀런도도 만도 쇼주 선발런도도 만도 소질런도도 만도 다 관계 산소는 가서 되디 아래스.
So these are the sort of borders where we are depending on our decisions, whether we go towards liberation or not, towards bodhicitta or not, towards becoming a bodhisattva, or on the path to Buddhahood.
어딘지 봐지 다 줘봐. 좋아 사실 림보는 대시 매비 어디 전에 지시도 먹고.
The next one, the long-lived gods have no opportunity to practice the dharma because they spend their time in a state of mental blankness.
다 사실 림보세 대한테 다코 기워세 가로 다 기워나 오지래 되네 다 맞을 때 야치 시에서는 코 시에서서 하나 오지다. 타마 마시비가 다시로 사 대니마도 세슈죠 콜로지 메바다 와시.
So the long-lived gods or devas, they are actually said to be in a relatively happy state. In fact, they pass the great majority of that very long lifespan in a state of happiness. It's only when they start to come to the end of their lives that there is a little bit of upset. And that's not particularly from any unfortunate thing that they're facing right then, but it's just them thinking, when I come to the end of this lifespan, things are going to get more difficult. That is what's being said here.
다 콜로 다 알게 좀 오래 타마텔 다 키거더니 타바 많이 받지라 타바 이사레 손에 공기주전에 되어 있다 타마 샤와샤만도 비칼 다 타발아요.
So it is actually said that these long-lived devas, that this bliss, here it speaks about this kind of mental blankness, but it's actually a very blissful state of mental blankness, that these long-lived devas often think, I've reached moksha, right? I am liberated. But as they reach the end of their long lifespan, they see that they could be reborn in samsara, and then they think, actually, I've been deceived. There's no such thing as liberation at all. And that doubt about liberation, this can lead even to more negative karma through wrong views.
다 예타고 더시나 소지제 땜바 메비 치셰도 먹고 다 치체네 메사긴 다 사자되기 요레스.
So those born in border countries have no opportunity to practice the dharma because the doctrine of the Buddha is unknown in such places. So Geshe said really what border means here is that a place without dharma.
머테셰도 대도 지스템비 루타체 더시나요 루지 루틸레비 치셰도 먹고
Those born as tirthakas or with similar wrong views have no opportunity to practice the dharma because their minds are so influenced by mistaken beliefs.
단지서와 먼비까와라시나 켄조선지 다조요 모타시 게디 ngom시비 치셰도 먹고
Those born during a dark kalpa have no opportunity to practice the dharma because they never even hear of the three jewels and cannot distinguish good from bad.
단디 디세텔 데메가 까와세기 하레 손지게 때바 손지 페네 다파 다 데메노지 버게
So this is not a period of darkness. This is known as an eon of the lamp. It is known as an eon of the lamp because a Buddha appeared and the light of that dharma is still shining.
그래서 와타 쿠파시나 노실레 리송아
No, Jesus.
쿠파시나 노실레스 머르이 치셰도 먹고
Those born mute or mentally deficient have no opportunity to practice the dharma because their faculties are incomplete.
다 내지 메이나야 다 버르고가 메비데스레 야요레스
So even as a human, right, we can have certain circumstances that make it difficult to practice the dharma. Ngachi wachikyo.
벤저
Take it away.
지라카르트 라다
Keche she mi tupgen konso chunyamlen che gigo kap mes. Chitang chichen chua tang gigo kap mes. Ine kari chen chunyamlen che gigo kap mes.
마르마르마르테 다 쿠쿠파스 깨제시 미시와치 보케자 마르와스 첸네 다 퍼소노 또야게 네바 메케
Loso. So I asked Geshe because I had a doubt about this when I was reading last night. I said, why would we say that a person who is mute is unable to practice the dharma? Because, okay, they might not be able to verbalize a question, but certainly they're capable of studying and reflecting the dharma. So Geshe is explaining that it says mute and mentally deficient, but it's actually those things are kind of tied together. So it's a mental block, some sort of mental deficiency that makes it hard for them to practice.
리송아
그렇소.
딘디바치 다 제바 이제 제베
옌송숨.
녜소서나 따바롱롱게 녜소 랭게전 디비 품이 사토 찍고라 소베둥아라 거의 대시 비치셰다 먹고
The inhabitants of the three lower realms suffer constantly from heat, cold, hunger, thirst, and other torments. As a result of their past negative actions, they have no opportunity to practice the dharma.
다 당기 라로세죠 라로 시바는 로 카타 시발라서 타고 스지자니 예바 셰바 노동 세와 치스마와 라리치류 시소제바 개와자와 노데사 그거 타고 저 라로노죠容易没遇到也좀
Barbarians means those who live in the 32 border countries such as Lo Kata, and those who consider harming others as an act of faith or whose savage beliefs see taking life as good. These people inhabiting the outlying territories have human form, but their minds lack the right orientation, and they cannot attune themselves to the dharma.
어다 메리지 더 파타사 먹이주 이나요 다 드니치다 치기다 드니게네서 좋아치네
So these people have human form, but then there's no kind of feeling for the dharma. So it's very difficult for them to develop any connection with the dharma.
오늘 올라로 리지데 체와치스마니 센젤 네바 가제시나 가제소치에 토나 다테 개와레서 다다드리거든요.
And in some barbarian realms, that there's a very strong view, a wrong view, that says that killing, in fact, is the way to glory, and that killing is something helpful and beneficial. And obviously, this is a very mistaken view.
다다이나요 좀 밀린데라요 다 파센제세니 다 그래 트라제피아더니 내서 뭐 두었어.
So we see that in this world even now, right, in the terms of red offerings, in the context of false kind of religious beliefs that people will kill animals, offer their blood, and so forth. And obviously these are very mistaken practices.
And His
Holiness the Dalai Lama, in terms of those animal sacrifices, a mode of offering, this is something that His Holiness has really spoken against and has said that is something like very negative in today's world.
어다 리치기 야본 얘기야. 다 리치기 다 얘기 말로 다는 분들 왔어.
You know, so some people will heed this advice and then others will not. There's all sorts of different beings in the world.
tene ngama meso le pepe kala tene o pona pepe shala wo sha soni tene jasa chi ares.
Ale sha.
Kawala. Ganga chet.
Oh, ale.
Serat fani wal.
Oh,
pepe le tene kendi tin be motan ro kal te thon ro.
ale, los.
Ota kendi ta nga cheri gyo na te me was sho.
So, there was a long life puja or ritual that was offered to His Holiness in the south, but when His Holiness was driving in his car, he was passing a lot of poultry farms where the hens and so forth were being caged. And he said, you know, that if you want me to have a long life, then the activities must be in accordance with that, right?
ota te pe tiso me was ne tiso geso ko ni was ares.
Correct.
Gengo ji desa.
And so actually what happened is that they got rid of those chicken farms and they built a home for old people in that place.
ota te ji tin ro de was. Ngotere ta de meza ma pa ma lamba so ronge pa me je so nge be ji san ro chi de ji xie ba to janga.
Oh, tesbato.
su cha se ba do da sho la su ma ge le ta la ha ba ke ji di ba ba xie la xie pe shama da ne su don ro mo yi mo ko me ne yi.
So, inheriting from their forefathers such pernicious customs as marriage to their mothers, they live in a way that is the very opposite of dharma practice. Everything they do is evil, and it is in techniques of such harmful activities as killing insects and hunting wild beasts that they truly excel. Many of them fall directly into lower realms as soon as they die. For such people, there is no opportunity to practice the dharma.
shiro jupen ba se ne shiro ba ta ri ji yo re se ta te shu chimo chi ngama ina.
Loso.
Chewa ngama de shima yo ma re. Ta ki zo koro pinja ra wo chi la pomo chi la ko cha ba she ne la. Yi che ta ki te ju mo bo zo ne ko ke ba ji re lu was.
So Geshe said that this is actually taken from, there was a particular kind of rikandesre?
Koro no pinja pomo.
Mari dihago sungine.
Shiro jupemba.
Chiro jupemba. So there was a kind of an outsider tenet, so a kind of religious philosophy that seems like it's kind of like hedonism. So the practitioners of this were not having any faith in past and future lifetimes. They thought that one should just indulge in pleasure, even being able to marry your siblings and cousins and so forth. So this is, of course, seen as a very wrong view.
ota ko te ke pa yi za ri pa je yo wa nga zo ri pa shi ji gi ri pa sa jo.
Loso.
Chi ni gi ri pa sa de ko ne te ne pe te yu te ji pa le bi ma ja ra mo zo ya se yo re.
Chiyingi rikpa.
Te pe che to ne la.
Ale, tene chawa no. So in the four reasonings, there's actually the reason of dharmata or suchness. It is said that the people behind this philosophy, they actually kind of took a very perverted understanding of this and used suchness as a way to say there's no past and future lifetimes, there are no actions and consequences and so forth, and then it came to this wrong view.
Pena chung ser ziba yo.
Jangchok.
Me ziba.
Ale.
Ziba do zimango ge mo no ji se do. Na ro so ni li ni.
Yeah.
Nyondo me ro ma to shawang ma to shima yo ma.
So they said that, like, we are just like kind of characters drawn on a wall, that kind of after the time of this life, there's no consciousness beyond that. So the mind, it disintegrates together with the body. There is no self or consciousness that continues.
Ota tere tane sha suja se ba do da sho wala so ba da sho wa se ra ko do da ka di na da se de ki senji se de ki.
Yeah. And so Geshe said, you know, hunting wild beasts, so that's considered like, you know, hunting for sport and for food and whatever.
Ta tere so. Da me ba ba chi la se rin bo shi ba na de shi me be la te ge de kong yun de shi me be so ta la ta ba zu ni gon be de shi me be la ra shi ding ye ze de ngo da ka che mo bi ba de ne peje je le se ba na lu ti ji ta ni la ya te. Ne so de shi chi she de mo kon ba yi.
Yeah. So Geshe said we're going to read this paragraph of the long-lived gods, but it's like a reminder, is what he mentioned earlier. The long-lived gods are those gods who are absorbed in a state of mental blankness. Beings are born in this realm as a result of believing that liberation is a state in which all mental activities, good or bad, are absent, and of meditating upon that state. They remain in such states of concentration for great kalpas on end, but once the effect of the past actions that produce that condition have exhausted, they are reborn in the lower realms because of their wrong views. They too lack any opportunity to practice the dharma.
다 루타 제세야 되라 로바타와 나 저 송지제 템발에 셔로더 집에 달로지 따제더 따와 노테 대도나 롱롱게 지 루틸레는 요타 비치라 미파 마시베 돈비치셰데 모콤바 이종
So the term wrong views includes in general eternalist and nihilist beliefs, which are views contrary to and outside the teaching of the Buddha. Such views spoil our minds and prevent us from aspiring to the authentic dharma, to the extent that we no longer have the opportunity to practice it.
벤더 어제 송지니 베베쇼 때마 주니라 대베 마대바 니스 문주에사 대도 찬데 요타 비치도 고자라 로바토비 리제 이나요 돈비치 츠지데 잡발라 모콤바 이데 pena gelon lepe kama lo nyengi pa de choden de chi shanro de de chong deba chuze me par lota khona shibe thar me to daral yedas shewa ta ba yi.
Here in Tibet, because the second Buddha, Padmasambhava of Odayana, entrusted the protection of the land to the 12th Tenma, the Tirthakas themselves have not really been able to penetrate. However, anyone whose understanding is like that of the Tirthakas and contrary to that of authentic Dharma and authentic masters will thereby be deprived of the opportunity to practice according to those teachings. The monk Sunakshatra, so Sunakshatra is called Legpe Karma in Tibetan, Legpe Karma, spent 25 years as Lord Buddha's attendant, and yet, because he did not have the slightest faith and held only wrong views, ended up being reborn as a preta in a flower garden.
Wata tandil tawa ina ita ngarusu ta kawa zombong ina re ndiwa sawata sawa sunji chil tabashi at kaze tata lo judo nyole chiya tandil tanata halevitane ko ka chembo.
So if we think about these various kind of situations, we will see that it being able to be in our situation and have some feeling and have some faith in the dharma, this is something very precious and rare. So we must bring forth stable effort.
송지제 동바나 마비카와시와 때 송지 마시비 시 동바노 시에나 켄초선제 자종요 모토시 동비치제 노아도 자이 모콤비 네이 쿠파시에나 로지 레스 머리 시 체nye 고저 공요 셰머니 쿠파시 바싱마 쿠파라 세와 대요 마시 대고와 메이 체nye 마초이 모콤비 네이죠 이죠 온보 꾸이데 네단기라야 신더
So, birth in the dark kalpa means to be reborn in a period during which there is no Buddha. In a universe where no Buddha has appeared, no one has ever heard of the three jewels, and there is no dharma. There is no opportunity to practice it. The mind of a person born deaf and mute cannot function properly in the process of listening to the teachings, expounding them, reflecting on them, and putting them into practice is impeded. The description deaf and mute usually refers to speech dysfunction. So Geshe said, actually, this fixes my qualm here. I should have read further. It becomes a condition without the opportunity for dharma when the usual human ability to use and understand language is absent. This category therefore also includes those whose mental disability makes them unable to comprehend the teachings and thus deprives them of the opportunity to practice them. So in this way we have concluded the discussion of the 8 states lacking leisure or freedom, and these are 4 states lacking freedom of non-humans and 4 states lacking freedom of human beings. Yeah, so Geshe said that hopefully those 8 are clear to you, but if there was something that was not clear, during the Q&A, please feel free to ask. Yeah. So then, we continue down towards the end of 21, reflecting on the particular advantages relating to dharma. Under this heading are included 5 individual advantages and 5 circumstantial advantages. Nagarjuna lists them as follows: born a human in a central place with all one's faculties, without a conflicting lifestyle, and with faith in the dharma. Without a human life, it would not be possible even to encounter the dharma. So this human body is the advantage of support.
다 되래. 다 론종아 소싱인이 총기하게 내서가.
Oh, yeah.
연종아서는 다 시내서 총기하게 내서 될 연종아.
So Geshe said that these 5 individual advantages, or it's really, if you translate it, it's like rangjorna, it's like the 5 freedoms of the individual. These relate to your own internal conditions, so we can understand it that way. And the 5 circumstantial advantages, how it's translated here, these are your freedoms as it relates to outer conditions.
다 도도적인 또뭐 멀멀시와 다 멀시와 되지래.
So the first of these 5 individual advantages is that one is born as a human.
니바테 ombo총와 되지래.
Secondly, one has complete faculties.
선바테 때는 처음에가 마시바 되지래.
So the third one, Geshe said, he would give it as one has not completed one of the 5 actions of immediate retribution and so forth.
다 된다 도도 알리라고지잖아.
Yeah. So that's what Geshe is saying for conflicting lifestyle, but if you really take it to its simple essence, it's not having engaged in one of these 5 actions of immediate retribution.
And
the next one is a faith in the 3 baskets of the teachings. Denusum, right? And the 5th is that one has become a follower of the Buddha, or one has entered into the teachings. So if you want to kind of take these 5 individual advantages in a very sort of brief form, you can think of them in this way. If you had no faith in the Buddha's teachings, you would not feel any inclination for the dharma. Having the ability to turn your mind to the dharma, as you are doing now, constitutes the advantage of faith. Ale. 나서 가야지. 양결 쓴다. Sorry. Ganso wangpo denso mepa di mare ro. Tingalare jelare. So sorry. I jumped ahead. If you've been born in a remote place where dharma was unheard of, che komanyong dapo chi ro. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So the first one is that one is born human, so that's what we read already. The second is that one is born in a central country. I see. So Geshe is giving these 5 advantages in the positive sense, but the text is speaking of them in the negative sense. So, had you been born in a remote place where dharma was unheard of, you would never have come across it. But the region you were born in is central as far as dharma is concerned, and you have the advantage of place. Di sacha, right? So now the third one, wangpo. Not to have all your sense faculties intact would be the hindrance to the practice of dharma. If you are free of such disabilities, you have the advantage of possessing the sense faculties. If you had a conflicting lifestyle, you would always be immersed in the negative actions and at a variance with the dharma. Since you now have the wish to do positive actions, this is the advantage of intention. Right, right. So Geshe said that for this third one, not a conflicting lifestyle, this is different than how it's usually presented. I was saying to Geshe, I think this is more of a lam rim thing. If you're familiar with like Tsongkhapa's lam rim, it will say here, have not engaged in the 5 actions of immediate retribution.
다 된다 누노 티세야 가르세기 요라세나 페나 자갈 자갈 때는 리수 야보 요 때는 리수 두가 지라 소소 빠바도 팜 빠바 때르지 가디나 세지 네 세기지나 포비르 지올레가 테체케야 단다이나요 리지라
나?
아 소소 빠바 때지 쳔바이나
쳔바스나?
세지세기
알레.
시사게
Yeah.
포비이나 딜레카텔레야
Right. So Geshe is thinking that conflicting lifestyle here, that Patrul Rinpoche is referring to the caste system. And so Geshe said that he doesn't want to kind of always drag Indian faith traditions, because he said there are many beautiful aspects to Indian faith traditions. But here he believes that conflicting lifestyle means, for example, if your father was a butcher, right, you would also be a butcher according to the birthright of your caste. So he thinks that this is maybe why it's worded differently here.
된다 빠바 때레카 되오네 다 야보 뭐 요르테네 두가 레키테디나 가디이나 테네 코르디팔시 데키나 야탈로바시라레스.
So a conflicting lifestyle, of course, if your father was born into something where others were benefiting, then you would be born into a conducive style. But if your father was born into a kind of occupation that harmed, then by virtue of your birth only, already you are going to be compelled into negative actions. So that is what is meant by conflicting lifestyle here.
된다는 데와 여르지바레스 다리 초메 시바데 레타 두슈치 코로타 타티바이자.
Yeah, so Geshe said here, conflicting lifestyle is something really heavy, right? Like being compelled into an occupation where you're killing. So although it's a little bit different from speaking about those 5 actions of immediate retribution, there's still this kind of understanding this is a quite heavy karma here.
Deswa ota telame baten jo machiche. Tene sonje tari la et dene sala deba. Rebe.
Adenisumla yeah.
Lona
digire tu.
Le chetalon den deswa. Devin ne sonje je tembala matena chila yi masho pale tari lo chila shu nebe devin jomba.
Yeah, so sorry, this is where I skipped ahead to for whatever reason. So now we are there. If you had no faith in the Buddhist teachings, you would not feel any inclination for the dharma. Having the ability to turn your mind to the dharma as you are doing now constitutes the advantage of faith.
어때 nga wonder 롱이 라틴에 송기비 롱지 까인 좀바 nga 시샤 대용 못답이 돈비치 나마시 잡발라나 머르치바시 단적이 되티바텔로.
Because these 5 advantages need to be complete with regard to one's own makeup, they are called the 5 individual advantages. To practice the real authentic dharma, it is absolutely necessary to be a human being.
So
we have to kind of rejoice, right, with a joyful mind that being in a state where we have these 5 advantages is only due to our previous cultivation of very virtuous karma, and also bring forth a wish to make the most of this opportunity. So we are now going to turn to Gampopa's text. So where we are in Gampopa's text are the Ningje Jendungi Tsawa. Yeah. Oh, loso. Yeah, so these are the 10 things not to be rejected. So for me, this is page 4. Huh? Yeah. Do not reject compassion, as it is the basis for helping others. So we shouldn't reject this, but we must always improve this. Don't reject appearances, as they are the natural radiance of the mind. Ale.
알랭아 이네 드리치라기
So Geshe said that his understanding of number 2 here. So first of all, it's a mistranslation. Don't reject experience, and I'm sorry, but I do say this with confidence because I checked it last night. Don't reject experiences. It's actually don't reject appearances. The Tibetan word is nangwa. That's not experience. It's appearances. So do not reject appearances. So Geshe said his understanding of this verse is that the appearances within the mind, these are our thoughts, right? So we don't want to just have this idea where you're just not thinking about anything, and in this way you're achieving something. So it's saying,
야야 노아데라 세게 노아 빼나 또 야, 나로서 또 많이 손을 두고 요나 또 많이 노아지 노아데지 다 파자지요 말에 되나 니스 그냐.
So for example, if we're meditating upon emptiness and the appearance of emptiness arises within the mind, this is something that we want to hold on to and cultivate rather than reject. This would be Geshe-la's understanding of this exhortation.
가정만 가서 요래체 토익가라요 돈이 노아데서 같이 모임바스.
So Geshe said that the discussion we had about the appearance aspect of emptiness, for those of you who were at the class, this is important in order to understand this particular slogan.
녀모바 이시제 산데 임베 모봉스.
Ganso kaodu namto nangwa semki
노도 친이제로 바임베 모봉스.
So the next one, don't reject thoughts since they are the play of your innate nature. So I would say number 2, don't reject appearances, and number 3, yes, don't reject thoughts.
다 데레 다 노토로 땅아로서 아까서라 빼나 세가 노토 이나 다 노토 냠바 이는 가서 봐 뭐야래 맞아 노토 좀 노토라 중에 뭐 보여하래 중화 대리는 가로서 탈 그거야래스.
So actually, sorry, we need to revise this. Thoughts is the translation for namtok. So this I would translate as discursive thought. So I would translate this as don't reject discursive thought. And so Geshe said that we can't just say all discursive thought has to be rejected, because there is some discursive thought which is beneficial and other discursive thought which is not beneficial. And we need to be able to differentiate. So the next one is don't reject disturbing emotions since they are the reminders of wisdom.
다 녀모바 세아티 시비깔 다다파 코두자레선 돈에 될 돈은 마트네 파트가 다가지 돼요 말이스. 녀모세나 코 녀모 니서소나. 더니 다 될 제바시는데 니네 노아노 지레도 뭐도 선생님네 류도 뭐도 제바시네 다 이시 세요르도 그야.
So Geshe said that actually don't reject disturbing emotions. He said this means don't reject the disturbing emotion or the affliction. We have to recognize the affliction when it arises, and then we have to contemplate, is this arising in accordance with reality or not? If we begin to recognize and question the affliction using that sort of strategy, then we will be able to bring forth wisdom.
그래서 와다 되는데 빼나간도 다 알는데도 내 녀도 저 칠리임베 뭐봉스.
Duyun nyamtoki chulugi. Okay, right. So the next one, don't reject sense pleasures since they are the water and fertilizer for experience and realization.
내베 예땡가서는 주다 저로 레장한테.
Yeah.
셔도 텔파테 코로파게 대도 체비깔 텔타 차제치는 차바시는 다 파겐 저대바 이는 다 뒤바지시기 바래스. 주다 저로 레자 나도 태운 거로 왔어.
Yeah.
나도 퇴비가라 될 차바시는 그 어디자는 저대바 이는 뒤에 나도 바쁘자래스.
So Geshe said we should be clear that when we speak about these sense pleasures, and here we're talking about, pleasant sounds, pleasant forms, pleasant tastes, pleasant tactile objects, and so forth. When we are meeting with those and then bringing forth an attachment to them, this attachment should be rejected. So we need to clarify that that attachment needs to be rejected.
대 보자래 마도 대비 에테가 주이다 저로 레자 나테 가로서 포게 소소가 리도 다 세도 대지기보 차야를 거 열한다고 지자 저도 린다고 이제 그거 요래.
So the attachment to those 5 sense objects is what should be abandoned. The 5 sense objects and kind of encountering them in our daily life and being wise about utilizing them, this can actually help our body and mind to remain healthy and relaxed. So in that sense, they should not be rejected.
다저게 템바 이나요 스포츠고 차 강에 TV 깔로 무지 같더니 봐 엄마 가리나 지자 전부지 피닐더니 디글리도 지닐.
So you'll remember the story of the Buddha, right? He underwent those years of asceticism. And then at the end, there was a young woman who offered him this bowl of milk rice. And seeing that the rejection of all of that had not brought him closer to realization, he accepted it as a way to rebuild his strength.
공가 대좀보.
Oh, yeah.
치도 못서 공가 대좀보. 다 손지가 zma시에서 센터는 거는 거거는
And remember that story that those, and they're called the 5 fortunate ones, or the 5 good ones, the Buddha's first 5 disciples. Initially they were actually pretty annoyed with the Buddha because they thought that he had lapsed in his ascetic practice, and so they actually abandoned him at first, seeing that he had taken that milk rice. Don't reject sickness and suffering, since they are your spiritual friends. So then younger Sundang Dungel.
So
remember, in the teaching of the 4 Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth, suffering should be known. So it's not that we kind of just ignore or ignore suffering. We should actually recognize and understand it. And so similarly, when we're experiencing sickness and suffering, right, it's not healthy to kind of just disassociate ourselves or just ignore it, right? We do try to acknowledge that experience of sickness and suffering and see how that can be something that is going to be helpful to our study and practice of the path. In other words, we try to transform it into the path. So of course it is an obstacle to experience sickness, but if we are able to experience it with knowledge, understanding that, for example, the illness that we are experiencing is the result of negative karma, this can help to build a type of awareness, right, and enhance our study and practice. And remember the story of the Buddha, right? When the Buddha first left the palace as Prince Siddhartha, and he witnessed the sick person and the dying person, right? Him seeing those realities really were what kind of the catalyst that set him out on the search for liberation. So don't reject enemies and obstructions, since they are inspiration for your innate nature.
용조 슈잖아 요아르도 게야 사 고가다
So Geshe said the enemies and obstructions, when they arise, right, these kind of unseen beings, what hopefully will happen is that this kind of bolsters your practice. It makes you kind of more awake and determined to uncover the nature of things.
지말라리 팔라 노안 담다 샤비칼 오 노안 데르지 타야케 메 치가 바치 이스
Yeah, yeah.
아카사 강가 세가 노안 소레마 두두자 메 소노톤 코 슈처노 요아르
So Milarepa, Lord Milarepa, he reflected on this, right? That when all of these appearances were arising, that these are just appearances of the mind. And since they are coming from the mind, they do not need to be obstructions.
슈라 슈나 니저 임베 모봉 소소가다 겨와다 니저비칼 슈라다 토파게 사야도 투야다니 용거라 와스 대징 해준다 왔잖아 오다 파봉 그 말에
So don't reject whatever comes naturally, since it is a sign of success. 칼라당된수라고 해.
야 가르슈나 된다
So whatever good things come to you, whether pleasant foods and so forth, you don't need to just kind of reject those out of hands. It is a sign of positive karma being accumulated.
탈로 고요 시라저 로테 임베 모봉
So in the next one, don't reject any type of path of means, since it is a stepping stone for knowledge.
점바
Sorry. Excuse me.
나도 맞아 점바 쳇저 제바 찐디던디 고카슈나 시라가 도임베 대절 도노 마테네 바마소스
So path of means, Geshe is saying here, we mean practices such as generosity, we mean practices such as patience and so forth. All of these things on the method side. We shouldn't reject these and think that they are not important, because they actually help us to be able to also reach an understanding of the wisdom side.
Don't
reject the physical activities of a spiritual nature, which you are capable of accomplishing. So this is speaking of prostrations, right, and other things that use our body as easy methods for the accumulation of virtuous karma. Oh, so sorry. Mari, jenda chi yore. Don't reject the intention to help others, even if your powers are feeble. So these are the 10 things not to be rejected, a short explanation of those. So Geshe said we went over about 4 or 5 minutes, but we're able to accomplish this. So I think we'll go to questions, and I'm sorry, but I'm just going to ask for 1 or 2 minutes because I have a lot of congestion. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to take a moment to blow my nose, and I'll be right back. Yes, I'll be right back. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about that. So we'll do a short dedication. Changjo zemjo rinpoche maje banam chejor che chewan yamba meba yang gone gondu pewa sho Tongni tawa rinpoche maje banam chejor che chewan yamba meba yang gone gondu pewa sho Jambe bao jida kemba tong kundu zambo deyon de jente Deda kungi Jesu dalo che Gewa dida tamshe radungo Dusun shebe gyawa tamshe gi Ngowa gangla chodung abade Dagi gewe tsawa dikun kyang Zambo choji rabdu ngowa Through the virtuous karma that we have accumulated, may all beings be able to bring forth minds of loving kindness, and in this way may the sun of happiness shine on all sentient beings without exception. And we also should understand that this human rebirth, it comes about through And we should understand that this human rebirth from the point of view of the cause is something that is difficult to achieve, and the point of view of the result is something that is fortunate. And so having all of these in place, then let us go towards a path towards goodness. So we'll pause there. So I did see a question pop up, so maybe we'll do that one first. There was a question about 11 points. Dave, do you want to go ahead and read that question? Sorry. I saw it come up, but I can't find it.
So this is a question from Carol asking, aren't there 11 points in this list? I'm not sure which list. Time dependent.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I think the first thing to keep in mind is that Geshe actually what he did, and I think maybe people won't realize if you're not familiar, but what he did is he applied Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation of the Lam Rim, doing each of these points, and then we went to Patrul Rinpoche's presentation of those points. So I don't know, maybe there's a difference there, but I'm not sure what Carol's talking about either, to be honest.
Yeah.
So maybe she'll tell us. I guess we can go to the next question then.
Well, yeah, it says 10 things not to be rejected. The list is 11. It's just a silly comment. But
You're no, okay. I was like, were we on the freedoms and endowments? No, you're absolutely right, Carol. You're absolutely
Marjorie has
one thing at a
answered.
time. Hold on.
It's the same thing. Marjorie has answered it, saying that some texts combine the last 2 points.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yes, you're correct. There are 11. Yeah. Is that all? No questions?
Oh, I have a question.
Yes, go for it.
In the very, very beginning of class, when we were settling our minds into meditation, you said to settle the mind on the fundamental relative nature of the mind.
Yes, Kunzup.
Yes, okay, Kunzup. Okay, so all right. So then I just wanted to clarify, we're actually going into like the conventional
but we can ask Geshe about that, but he did say Kunzup.
Okay.
Tambo lele de pe kapula nganso di semgi rangshin Kunzup da bochik de go gire du asti Kunzup di donda kare du.
말은 다 간서 새 거룩 것이 가라와 새 것이 바셔발라 어느 새 그쪽 내서 것이야 새 대도가 내서 것이야 니 와라 대만이 내서.
So there's two aspects of the mind that we need to recognize, actually. We need to recognize the relative nature of the mind, and we need to recognize the ultimate nature of the mind, right? And so that's kind of like connected with those two truths. So when the kunzobrebe. So at first we rest in the neutral nature of the mind, which is like this neutral space of equanimity. And that means that we're not kind of focusing on any feeling or experience, we're just kind of relaxing into that neutrality. And so the second step is what Geshe refers to as the relative fundamental nature of the mind, which means letting go of any thoughts of the past, letting go of any thoughts and fears about the future, resting in the present moment, and sitting with the mind's aspect of being clear and knowing. And so that is a kind of the nature of the fundamental mind in its relative aspect, but this is only a coarse representation of that. Again. And actually, as we relax into that, there will become a dawning of an appearance that there is no findable or pinpointable mind, and it's like an emptiness. And at that moment, it's okay just to relax with that. So we understand that this is not actually emptiness, but it is an appearance similar to emptiness, and at that moment the qualities of clear and knowing are not going to be immediately apparent to the mind. But because you are recognizing this as like the nature of your mind, it's like a recognition of the mind's nature. Yeah. It's an awareness of the coarse aspect of the relative nature of the mind. But for those who have like kind of a stronger imprint, swiftly following that will be sort of a recognition and an experience of the clear and knowing nature of the mind. And that is the it's a kind of coarser aspect of what Geshe spoke about as the relative nature of the fundamental mind, that clear and knowing aspect. And then following that, we'll see that actually also this mind that is clear and knowing, it has no particular form, no shape, no color. It is vast and empty like the sky. And there's a danger here because some practitioners can think like touching that nature that, oh, I've seen emptiness, right? Because there's an emptiness that's vast like the sky. They'll think that that's like the actual emptiness. And in the Gelug Mahamudra text, it actually explains that is a mistaken understanding. Even at that point, one is just tapping into a deeper understanding of the relative nature of the mind. One has not yet touched on the ultimate nature of the mind. But it is a method to kind of unlock that investigation of the ultimate nature of the mind. So it's still something that is really useful. Oh,
That's wonderful. Are we supposed to be doing this before we begin our practice, our daily practice?
So nyamlen chia go matsu ngela di dabo chik sogore bes semgi rangshin di joela.
Mimi 다시도 가디나 가서 세 어느 렐레 지고 그거 요아래라 세 무엇이야 대 할레비 같이 물어봤어도.
You could say that because when we do our practice, we want the mind to be in a very relaxed state, and recognizing its nature is a very effective way to do that. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, but we'll just muddle on.
Thank you so much. I realize
You're
everything
welcome.
that I've not been doing, so thank you.
You're welcome. And apologies if Kedrup is a little bit slow on the uptake today. I'm pretty sure I have a cold, actually.
아니 배나 다르사 그랬더니 야 곰자기 가지. 야마를 까망아즈를 맞서는 또 메트는 로치 제rel스트는 세 여보 모시네라. 아니 대저도 컨트롤 가르래 바이네 고 여보 배도 슈스세 드레세가 요아레.
So there was one actually meditator in Dharamsala, and Geshe said that he, mentioned this story before, that just from kind of relaxing and doing a meditation on the nature of the mind, just for 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of each practice, this was very helpful for him, right? Being able to to be really able to recognize when the afflicted minds such as anger and attachment were kind of going forth, and also to be able to be able to go to the ultimate nature of the mind. Sorry, did you want?
Yeah, no, that's very helpful because I just think that I realize that I just kind of leap into my morning practice without, without any kind of preparation, but just take everything out and do recitations and whatever. And so it takes a while for me to settle in, but I think this would really help. That's
right.
So I feel like sometimes I'm just diving in and then there's not as much meaning as there could be in the practice.
Yeah, some kadun chepe couple of kaduk drona roa dene ngundro den su dabo chik masuna dene dundang tets mepa dabo chik drogire to us.
Yeah,
so it's really important to start from that space of relaxation with a peaceful mind, and then actually on that basis we can improve the rest of our meditation.
Thank you so much. That's great. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah, Geshe said he sees a lot of hands. And Dave, you were going to say something, so go ahead.
No, I'm fine, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Was it Carol's voice that I heard? I heard someone's voice. Anyways.
So we have B, then Dekili, then Yulita.
Okay, go for it, B. Yep.
Okay. Hi, Geshe. Welcome back. Lately, I've been thinking that it is oftentimes said that the mind that grabs to true existence of, say, like a flower. So from that mind, the next it will lead to a mind that is called inappropriate attention, which exaggerate the
Sorry, say that again, B. So you've got the mind that's grasping at true existence, and then what's next? Sorry, guys, I'm a little slow today, so I might have to ask people to repeat things.
No problem. And then next, that mind will lead to the mind called inappropriate attention for some teacher.
Right.
And that mind will exaggerate the qualities of, say, like a flower that I'm looking at, of it being very attractive or very ugly. And then next to that, if the exaggeration is attractive, it will lead to attachment. And if the exaggeration is ugly, it will lead to aversion. So I can understand how to get to step 2, from step 2 to step 3.
Yeah.
But I've been wondering, why is it that when we grasp at something as being true existence, it automatically leads us to exaggerate the qualities of that thing?
Okay, I got you. Okay. Dene nganso zimpagi semdi ruwa nganso chik yuldi rangingune drupa yores rangshingi netso chik yores di donang norgyok sikta da hamako ine donang nor soa sikande
no so was
donang logyo
ya so no was
samso norwa ro dene de la tene nganso yuldi kandes laugure dognepo yena ro tangsem yongi yeres ro ningjepo yena chakpa chik yongi yeres ro ine nganso kaji ine di kurteb ki dokcho kare rodo di chik yongi yeres nganso zimpe gi sem di rodo kare chene drogi yeres koronso yuntendi kare chene mangru tangi yeres ko di yabuko gi mendusa
mara da te yete de mortu yate ti jalul da mari pati ngi chusa yo pati mo chi so sar was so ti chi so yares
ale dine yuntenden so dela ya ko hako son yine dela tene yuntenden so mangru droe kare che son yuntengi nangwa tets
se shi was ta koron no chi so sa so was
ale los
dela tene no ti ta yo poteze chi yo va ine jasha murmur to yate oti
So Geshe said that really the only thing to say here is that because of thinking that there's some sort of pinpointable existence, some sort of findable inherent existence to it, that the ignorance grasping at the self is kind of brought into the picture, and that ignorance grasping at the self has that natural quality of exaggerating the object. And so that is one part of why we're seeing an exaggeration in the qualities. And the other reason that we're seeing an exaggeration in the qualities is because of our habituation. Our habituation to that misperception leads to an exaggeration in the qualities.
Okay. So so nothing more can be said other than to say that is a natural quality of a grasping mind.
No, I try. Yeah, no, that's exactly it. No, and I did try to push on that for you, B. But it's I guess that Geshe's answers to that is that it's the nganso tangsingi zuguzusa yupadi tang nganso gomshidi, right? Yeah. I guess the other part he brought into the picture for you is this part about the habituation, right? So the habituation is another part of that.
So the flip side of this is that, just to make sure, it is impossible for us to not have affliction arising if so long as we see something as truly existent.
Then nganso rangjingi dropa samso kare yunayang nyomong makea mendus. Di yuna kadine nyomong kea. That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for that. That was actually clarifying for me as well. Geshe said, "Don't be sitting like a loaf of bread." No, I actually feel pretty. I didn't even realize I had a cold until now. I feel pretty good actually. It's just my mind is working slower than usual, and my voice is a bit creaky. But I'm actually eager to take more questions. So go ahead, Dekili.
Okay. Just a short little thing. When you were talking about pretas, you referred to them as smell eaters.
Yes.
My understanding as well is that a bardo being after death is also a smell eater. Just checking.
Yeah, no problem. Ganso yedak seria di konso dreama la tene jogidu sine yang bardoa gi kebudin so konso yang dreama sagidu stinso nigarebesa.
Yeah, Thomas I the chibaras. Idala matari damadaras.
So Geshe said yes, they both bardo beings and pretas can be smell eaters in the sense that they subsist on smells, but there's different kinds of pretas. Not all of them subsist on smells, but some of them do. So it's the case of ale konso chudi tsobadawochi tonya. So there's a better kind of like a better kind of preta who they're seeing a liquid of water right, as being an unpleasant liquid, like mucus or something, but they're still perceiving liquid. The preta with the even heavier obscuration, it can't even perceive that unpleasant form, right? So it can only experience a smell, and that's what it subsists on. So Geshe says, it's the classic example of the same object being perceived by the deva as amrit, as nectar, by the human being as water, and by the preta as mucus. But the more unfortunate preta, it can't even perceive that, right? It would only be a smell. Yeah, so it doesn't even perceive anything kind of like liquid. It can't even experience a feeling of wetness. It can only experience a smell, and that's what it subsists on.
Okay, yes. And a bardo bean can just enjoy the smells as they are.
He thinks, not exclusively, he thinks that likewise there will be different experiences of different bardo beings according to their particular situation. There's actually bardo beings who in the bardo achieve the state of a foe destroyer. There's actually several instances of that. So not all bardo beings are going to have the same experience. But Geshe said, the term smell eater is often used for those bardo beings as well. But maybe we could understand that as one of the experiences of bardo beings. I guess not like a universal thing. But you also have those beings in the bardo who, at the time of the clear light of death, they use that experience to kind of touch on emptiness. And then their experience of the bardo is not going to be one of fear and confusion and so forth, right? So you can't say, I guess what Geshe's kind of saying is that different bardo beings have different experiences, Dekili.
Okay. My understanding is that Tibetan families will often put out their favorite smelling food for a week.
Ale, dene mi chongpe jela dene mambochik koronso kala parshaya yapochik dene jima dela tene konso pengire samso dapochik dua.
Yeah, tenganso pela shivoso gre. One koroti chile gre se yar. Chile sono koro pova tu mai no koshen jipachi do se pompon.
So Geshe said, yes, that is a common custom in Tibet, but actually it can be a problem depending on their obscuration, because they might have that experience of the pleasant smell and they'll actually come to that place, but then they actually can't see the food in front of them or they can't eat it. And that can actually cause problems as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can they eat the smell?
Jimadi satu gireves. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So Yulita first, please, and then I've got a couple one from two maybe from social media.
Yeah,
thank you so much. But I'm not sure if you really, maybe for the next time, my question is, because it's actually a continuation of my previous question. The person is, in general, question is about what we touched today, the cosmology of Buddhism, with all these being realms of Ashura, Preta, etc., which we can discover, read a lot of books, but they are still very abstract. If we can know that Preta are here physically on the earth here, because as a human we can't see, without pure vision we can't see them. But when we develop pure vision or third eyes, we can contact and communicate with ghosts, Ashura, etc. But I would like to exactly in this very to talk about cosmology of these 6 realms, to talk in the much more tangible way, and also to talk about different kind of gods in the Western, which are much, I don't know, much more intellectual, the gods which are much more.
Sorry, Yulita, I hear you, but I don't hear a question in there.
The question is also is to clarify a little bit more the cosmology of Buddhism and our cosmology from astrophysics, where they are, these gods, or far or not. Can we tell something? And also,
so are you asking sorry, just a sec. I just want to try and I'm trying to kind of, because having a huge conversation about Western versus Eastern conceptions of gods and how these classical gods might, I don't necessarily know that I have the vocabulary in Tibetan to be able to do that for you, for example.
Maybe right? Not today, because you are, maybe for the next time to develop, would love to hear about this question of cosmology, our cosmology from astronomy and Buddhist cosmology. Right. And also this is one thing which is more and more coming to my head about all these hybrid Ashura, which are in the form of human. Preta, which are in this point, which is interesting. Yeah, because we say always we are in difficult time. This monster, this dictator, or that political personal, they are Ashura in the earth. How this combination hybrid is a mechanism of this creator are there, kind of from the Buddhist point of view, to see how this Ashura comes to the human being, how it happens.
Okay, so I'm going to say what I understood from that, Yulita, and you tell me if I understood correct. So you're asking, first of all, in terms of these realms, in terms of a cosmology, I think of like part of what you're asking is where are all of these realms? Is that part of what you were asking?
Yes, to combine Buddhist cosmology with our astrology.
Okay.
And also in this characteristic of these beings, like previous answer about Bardo and Preta, because this is much more something which is clear for us, the smelling, eating, these qualities of these beings, which...
I didn't hear a question in that last part of what you said. I'm sorry.
Actually,
I'm really trying to understand.
Could you please again talk about cosmology or all these 6 realms, but in the way which is more not abstract, they are somewhere there, but in the how they eat, who is this Preta, who is this Ashura, and who is that god, or this intellectual god, or this another Western god, or that. This classification, I don't want to repeat all this. That because this we can read in books, but today Geshe told us about this, for example, the abilities of Preta to smell and connection to Bardo.
Yeah, no, I think, Yulita, I'm going to stop you there, I think, and I'm going to translate what I understood to the best of my ability, and then let's let Geshe answer, and then as a next step, you come back. Because I think I sort of understand where you're going, but it was a lot of, it's a lot of fine details, so I hope I can honor, I'll do the best I can.
I would like to maybe not today, but maybe if Geshe could one day talk more about cosmology. And this hybrid, this new phenomena, Ashura in human beings, etc. Okay. This is second question in cosmology.
I should put the question to him now, Yulita, because he's been waiting for a while, so I'll do my best. Nganso tambo di nganso sache dinso chatsangwa kawayere perna nyalwa dang yidak dang dinso karinsana nganso tong tugire mendua di chikcherwa konso sache kawaye dang me nganso hakogi omare rwa dineso kalikabuchik ane yang nganso zambuling tandalaya nganso zambuling midi yidak dapochikres midi la dapochikres ane de la tene yidak chik perna migi nampa yene dene konso mi duksha dinso marjaya dang dinso dabo chik dramandra chik sogire duas dene di kandes chik samlo tango gire duas.
Yeah, ta peja no lo ta pa che ke cha mo she yares. Ta ina yo ta li la shu te so no to na. Ro so so le la te ne ta no wa te ni chi ta so so sha yung yares. Le ba cha la te ne.
Loso.
Le ngam pas mo so na. Ka nge chu chu no wa. Ka re ina.
Mi ina yang.
Ya me ta me ina se yo marwa.
Yida gi na ngora bo chikit.
Yeah, so so ta nge so lo she sa so na. Ta ka re ina nge so ta ka nge no wa chu chu te da. Chai ti ma. Ha ka so.
Yeah. So Geshe said the first thing to understand about this in a concrete way, right, are that these are all appearances that are being experienced by the being in that realm according to their particular karma. So, for example, if you have a being which is reborn as a hungry ghost, right, that karma is manifesting as hunger and thirst. If you have a being that is reborn in the hell realm, it's experiencing the sufferings of heat and cold. But that being that is experiencing the sufferings of heat and cold, that realm is an appearance that is arising due to their karma. So the cosmology, in a sense, is that, actually.
And they stay here on the earth, right?
Konso jigten di yorebe sa.
Yeah. Jiten de yor se chola la chores.
Nyalwa dang yudak dang jasama. You could say it like that. Yes, you could say it like that.
And the higher realm, that human, all these gods, these and higher gods, where they are.
Ane la dang lama yin din so ganso toa chikure konso kawa yere ganso zambo linki toa.
De kodo kane zu kodo zu me konser tingen zu nyola la ten koros ma le ma da ja yaris.
So Geshe said, don't maybe think of these as geographical positions when we say higher and higher, but think of them as higher and higher states of concentration. And according to higher and higher states of concentration, they'll be reborn as a form and a formless realm God. Yeah.
Tingen zu tangi la tere sha to le ba cha la ten re sha to zo ji. Ta ina yo tingen zu nyola la ten lai kanga la ba to gong yo me sa ne ji. De ko ma imba.
So based upon their karma, right, and based upon their practice of concentration, they'll be reborn as a deva being who is experiencing these lucid states of concentration. And the realm is that those beings with similar concentration and karma will also be in that state. So then naturally, they're in a place surrounded by similar beings. Konso la jenda gyore karin sena konso yang tingins and top sarsante di ne dapochi chagire to us. So what Geshe is explaining you, Lita, and I think this is going to the spirit of your question, but if I misunderstood, please tell me. So the location is not so much the point, but it's that you are surrounded by similar beings experiencing similar things due to the same level of concentration and similar karma. So Geshe said, if you want the traditional cosmology, you can find that in the Abhidharma Kosha, and it relates all of these realms to a certain position of Mount Meru. But he says he doesn't pay much attention to that because scientifically it's a bit problematic. Okay. So if you're asking also how that Western cosmology and Eastern cosmology fits, I think Geshe also, because they did ask him a bit about that, so I think that would be his answer to that, maybe.
I see.
Now, Dza Rinpoche rijabo riraptan din so.
Ta te du shi kamar was lo ta tenda so so pa no ala tene kanga tan lai ne lai chucho. Mai ne ta mai ri da mata duas.
So that it basically the appearances that are coming according to one's karma, and the appearances are going to be similar for those beings in those deva realms, and they're going to be similar for those beings in the human realm. Yeah. But we have to understand that all of these experiences, the main doer or maker of all of these experiences is, of course, karma, right? That's the definitive thing.
That's clear. Yeah, that is clear. That's clear. Yeah. Yes, I am just more cause of karma law, but also that universe and all these 6 realms one day will also vanish.
Yeah, then nganso nimachik roa zamboling di dang kandisagore semshengi rikruk netruk den so chatsong yang martim jogire duasa.
Yeah, ta ko ni gire jawa na mandara.
Yes. Age.
Ko ji gire.
Kawaji. Ko me bacha roa. Yene ngai chena yang di zunang la yarlang ya dang me baria dang den so da.
Yeah, ta la ga no ne zuko ne tsa kwa shi yo tinga de nyola che jula de ne. Tama de ko wan ji bi kala ko ji to yo ma res. So te jiwa. Zuko sa ja shin de was ko amra.
Yeah.
Ko tinga de nyola che to wala de ne. Ko wa me wa cho bi kala yo de.
So an interesting thing that Geshe is mentioning here is that the highest state of concentration, sukme kamdi toshirwa, sukang jiba, sorry. So the fourth state of concentration within the form realm, even when, according to the Abhidharma cosmology, there's that great fire and the rest of those worlds are kind of burned up and cleared away, that form realm, that highest level of the form realm due to concentration, it remains. It cannot be destroyed. And of course, within the formless realm, then we don't even need to say that, right? That it's not going to be destroyed along with that because it doesn't have the aspect of form. Then, of course, fire and so forth cannot, destroy that.
Therefore, the remaining fire will be a point for reborn of universe, next universe.
Oh, right. You mean those beings that were like eaten up by the fire? Where do they go? In fact, is that what you're asking?
No, if the universe will collapse, but therefore it will be only fire which maintain something.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And there
with
will
the
be
elements.
Next.
Yeah.
The next universe will be reborn from this fire.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Cause of next, the fire is cause of for a next of universe.
Okay, I got you. Ganso, jigdan di chatsangwa me pasone me barne roa dene me matok mentua dene jigdan Younger chungya kande shikres me de la tene Actually, no, it's from space because eventually that fire will be totally gone too. Eventually that fire will be gone and all that's going to be left is empty space. So at that point, there's only like the very subtle atoms of the space element that are remaining. And the universe kind of comes up again and is built up from that. And then what you're mentioning about this kind of coming together of the universe again, it happens within the context of that space.
Is there any information about, I know this from Hindu, but it's just a curiosity, intellectual curiosity, is any relation of how many universe will be where we will be in which universe we are living in number?
I didn't understand you, Yulita, I'm sorry.
I know this from Hindu tradition that is in accordance with our chakra in our body. It's like copy of universe. Therefore, there will be prediction. It's 112 universe is consecutive. Some of them, and we are living in 84th universe. Therefore, our
universe. So we're in
84.
Sorry, just one sec. So we're in the 84 of 112.
Yes. So we all will collapse. 84th will collapse. And the new will be born 85th until 112, which corresponds to chakra, total number of chakra in the body.
Okay, nganso nganso sukbogi nanglola korlo denso chatsangwa dang jigten jawa yobe sa. Hindu nangla di dabudu. Ane nganso tranka jabna dene jadang chuni yores. Di dela tene jigden jadang chuni yar drogi yores dene me drogires. Ane tanda nganso gyachu gya jila levswa. Ane di yangyar chik chung dene yangyar chik mepacha jadang chuni bara levgireves. Di dabuchi gyoreves sa.
Jadu chuni kecha mandi tene tenda jaja kecha yores.
Jachu. Nganso tanda jachu.
Nyesha.
Ah.
Tumbi kawa, chabi kawa, nebi kawa, nyesha kecha yores.
So there are sets of 20. Geshe said it's not 112, but Buddhist cosmology, he thinks, has some similar ideas, that there are different sets of 20 sort of jikten yarlangdang mepadroya. So increments where the universe arises and falls away, and these are divided into different sets of 20. So there are 4 sets of 20. So it's 80. So an eon of destruction, an eon of attachment, an eon of space, like they have different names. And within each of these, there are 20 arisings and fallings away of the world system. So it's 4 sets of 20.
Until formless, because in Hindu there is also the final finish of end of universe is the last one is actually 114, which is completely formless universe.
Tenenganso jechu dinso levdu dene jikten chatsangwa sukme dapo chayeres tama kandes levgieresa.
Ya tama tumbi kawasere toncha suna. Ta zumenda tumba rawas tene o kale lule chane challe ta kale chayam karo.
Yene konso yangyar chongires di tama res yangyar chongyomares layamdu. Layamdu. So there is this concept of formless Yulita from what Geshe is saying, because as he said, these elements first come in and then they come together, and then there's the world, and then there's a fire, and then you have empty space, and that's formless. But that's something that happens again and again. There's not some sort of final end to that.
Okay.
And during the eon of attachment, after after the world comes together, the first inhabitant of that world is Brahma, actually. It is Brahma. Which makes sense, because he's the creator. Yeah, he is the creator, right? So Geshe said that, this is getting into the Abhidharma sort of discussion. You really have to look Yulita, at the Abhidharma Kosha commentary by Chim Jampelyang. This is available in English now. The Abhidharma Kosha by Chim Jampelyang. And I think you'll find a lot more details about this in that. That's what they study in the monastery, and it's available from Wisdom Publications, actually.
I am more familiar with Abhidharma Theravada. This is why yeah.
Yeah, so Geshe said that he gave you sort of an easy kind of understanding, right? Because to go into this really expansively, he's not, sure how possible that is.
Let's hear the discussion about this. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Yulita. Thank you for bearing with us. I hope we at least got you a partial answer.
Thank you.
So can we end here, Dave?
Sorry. Hello. We had 2 questions from social media.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So first one was from, let me scroll back here. Yes, from Dorota. Tashigila Geshe, how to behave in front of heart disease?
What to do? Is it kind of like what to do if you have heart disease?
How to behave in front of heart disease. So maybe what to do, what to think.
Yeah. Nganso ningi na tsayona kande samlo tangoresa.
Ningi na tsayona. Mimita nigi na tsayona ta chowa chimbo mugiwe to na chema nyeja ta kaze ta lele chaya go jana.
So Geshe said really helpful to do meditations that are going to relax and stabilize. So he would recommend the 4 close placements of mindfulness with heart issues. Yeah, and also the 4 formless absorptions and things like that. These are going to be something that can be helpful for someone with heart disease. But you don't want to kind of push the mind or cause any hardness in the mind. So it should be an open and relaxed and relaxed cultivation of the 4 close placements of mindfulness.
But
Geshe said also, with heart disease, the most important thing is to try to keep a mind that's open and relaxed. So you want to keep yourself as relaxed as possible.
Thank you. And the last question from Martha. What is the difference between being born in a place where Dharma doesn't exist and one where it does, and where you can live in the same neighborhood where there is a Buddhist temple but not have the karma to even go in and see it?
Nganso deljor kola labdu dene nganso di chugi madarsa chik dabuchik hakogire dua chugi madarsa kewalenya dang chu yosa kewalenya yine chula donang me paperna so neighborhood la chusok chikyore yine konso di drogores di kola chikyang samlo mad tangen dabuchik dinso nigi nangne legi kepar kandesresa.
Mimita tedu derwas ta tanda penamta natsubaji yuarwas mandamara kashi chil tone magawa sheki richi yungudwas teji ne jima tele jota po saja duga ta tanila chene drama vasatani cheno gras.
So Geshe said that he, it's individual karma once again. There's not really substantive answers to these always, but Geshe gave an example, which is you could have somebody who was born in this neighborhood where there's a Buddhist temple, and their reaction to the Buddhist temple is aversion. It really kind of gives them a very upset sort of feeling. And a karmic result of kind of holding on to that sort of feeling and view for a long time could be that you're reborn in a place where you don't even see the Dharma, right? Where the Dharma is not apparent. But the one who, let's say that they're in a neighborhood with a Buddhist temple and they're just not interested. It's not that they have like any kind of active dislike or aversion to that. So, maybe they're not born in a place where there is no Dharma, right? So there's a little bit more help for that person. So for example, they could be reborn in a place where, again, the Dharma is present, but that next time they meet friends who are interested in the Dharma, and because of the interest and encouragement of their friends, they encounter and practice the Dharma.
Okay, I think that's a wrap.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And it was really, really nice to see everybody today. And thank you for bearing with. I'm sorry for my condition today. I really woke up this morning, didn't realize it was going to be what it is. But by next week, I think it all will be good. So thank you so much. Really nice to see everyone.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Bye.
Welcome home.
Thank you.